You don't want profit. You want payback? The market just happens to be the place where that craving feels productive. Every click you make isn't a trade, it's a confession. Coded apology to a version of you that still can't stand being wrong. Losses don't vanish, they ferment. They wait in the nervous system, disguised as motivation. And when you think you've recovered, they whisper, just one more trade. Just one clean hit and it will all balance out. You obey because it doesn't sound like rage. It sounds like redemption. It sounds like closure. You tell yourself this time is different. This time you've learned. You adjust the stop. You shrink the lot size. You rehearse discipline like a prayer. But discipline without awareness is just control pretending to be peace. You don't need control. You need a place to hide from helplessness. The chart becomes that place. You don't chase profit. You chase symmetry. If one candle hurt you, another must heal you. If one move mocked you, another must obey. You're not trading volatility. You're trading vengeance. That's why revenge trading feels logical. Because it mimics justice. The brain equates getting even with safety. But safety built on ego is just panic with a bow tie. Every time you press buy or sell, you aren't entering a market. You're entering an argument with the past. The problem is that the past never replies. So you scream louder, through bigger size, tighter stops, faster re-entries. You say you're managing risk, but you're actually bargaining with regret. You disguise obsession with productivity. That's the modern disease. Efficiency and emotional avoidance. You call it trading psychology, but it's really grief wearing an algorithm. Each loss leaves a wound that doesn't want healing. It wants revenge. You can feel it in the fingertips. The hand shakes not from uncertainty, but from memory. It remembers what it lost, and the story you told yourself about what that loss means. The screen is neutral, but your mind paints ghosts on every tick. You stare at a candle and swear it remembers you. You say it's taunting you, mirroring your pain. But the truth is simpler and crueler. It's not the chart that mocks you. It's your reflection demanding control over time. This is the heart of ego in trading. The conviction that you deserve to be right. You confuse accuracy with identity. When the market proves otherwise, it's not just your capital that bleeds. It's your self-image. That's why the pain feels existential. 'Cause it is. The mind hates randomness because randomness dissolves identity. And trading is the closest simulation of chaos you can willingly enter. You think you signed up for freedom. What you actually signed up for was exposure. Every trade exposes how you handle loss, uncertainty, and lack of control. And most can't handle it. Not because they're weak, but because they mistake awareness for submission. Revenge trading is trading self-sabotage at its most poetic form. It's your consciousness setting itself on fire, hoping the flame looks like strength. It's logic turned weapon, risk management turned ritual, the sacred plan rewritten by adrenaline. Look at what happens after a loss. You zoom in, lower time frames, faster charts, smaller candles. It feels like control, but it's really contraction. Your perception narrows until all that exists is the next tick. That's not analysis. That's panic looking for permission. You replay the loss in your head like a crime scene. You rewrite history through hypothetical entries. If I'd just waited one more bar. If I'd closed a little sooner. If I'd trusted my gut. But history doesn't bend to guilt. It only reflects attachment. And attachment, to being right, to redeeming pain, to rewriting the story, is what turns trading into purgatory. The revenge trader is not a monster. He's a mourner dressed as a strategist. He doesn't want money. He wants equilibrium, an emotional equation where gain erases shame. But equilibrium doesn't exist when your opponent is yourself. Every revenge trade is a prayer to the illusion of control. Free this time I'll get it back is a plea to the god of ego. You don't need divine favor. You need detachment. But detachment feels like death to an identity built on performance. So you cling tighter. You hold the mouse like a weapon. You call it conviction, but it's really refusal to grieve. Listen to the body during these moments. The breath shortens. The jaw tightens. The shoulders lock. The physiology betrays the philosophy. You talk about patience, structure, risk. But the body knows you're at war. You aren't analyzing, you're surviving. You're not in the market, you're in a flashback. The market doesn't care, and that's what makes it sacred. It will not reward your pain. It will not pity your desperation. It will simply reflect your state of consciousness with mathematical precision. That's the hidden mercy. The chart never lies. It just mirrors. When you look at a red candle and feel humiliation, that's not the market hurting you. That's your ego measuring self-worth in ticks. When you see a pullback and feel hope, that's not opportunity. That's trauma disguised as optimism. You think awareness is about identifying patterns, but awareness is seeing the observer, the part of you that reacts, rationalizes, and reruns the wound. Most traders don't blow accounts because they lack strategy. They blow accounts because they can't sit with emptiness. They fill every silence with action. They call it momentum. They call it hustle. But it's really anxiety with branding. You think stillness is boring. You think inactivity is weakness. That's why you never notice the moment you cross from clarity into compulsion. Because compulsion looks like productivity until the statement arrives. Losses don't teach if you rush to fix them. They only teach when you're willing to stare at them without defense. But revenge hates silence. It needs motion to feel alive. And the market always provides motion. It's the perfect drug. Infinite data for infinite distraction. Every revenge cycle begins with one innocent rationalization. I just want to make it back. But there is no it. There is only you, divided between the one who lost and the one who can't accept that loss. You're not recovering capital. You're trying to recover a sense of wholeness. That's not trading. That's therapy without awareness. The market becomes your therapist, but it charges interest. Every session costs capital. And the more you talk through trades, the deeper the debt grows. Revenge trading feels like intensity, but it's actually avoidance. The energy isn't focused, it's fractured. You're splitting attention between the present chart and the past pain. Half of you trades reality, half of you argues with memory. And in that split, clarity dies. Most traders think clarity is analysis, but clarity is surrender. The acceptance that nothing needs to happen. Ego calls that laziness. Wisdom calls it presence. You built systems to feel safe. You learned entries, exits, setups. But the true system, the one that decides everything, is emotional regulation. When that fails, no indicator can save you. You can't code awareness. You can't automate self-respect. You can't backtest surrender. These are not variables. They're states of being. The revenge trader believes his system betrayed him. But systems don't fail. People do when they trade from the wound instead of the witness. Revenge isn't chaos or weaponized by ego. It's every lesson learned turned inside out. It's intelligence corrupted by emotion. That's why it's so dangerous, because it feels justified. You tell yourself, I'm not emotional, I'm focused. But focus born from pain is tunnel vision. You see what confirms your need to win. You call it conviction, but it's obsession. You mistake relief for insight. You mistake adrenaline for clarity. The market doesn't test your strategy. It tests your relationship with loss. Till that relationship is clean, every system is a new costume for the same wound. You can't heal what you won't feel. You can't move forward while staring backward. And you can't trade truthfully while your self-worth depends on outcome. You keep saying you're fighting the market. But the market isn't your opponent. It's your accomplice. It keeps offering you mirrors until you finally look. Every spike, every drawdown, every stop out is a reflection asking, still trying to prove you exist? There's no villain in this story except the part of you that can't sit still in truth. The part that thinks movement is meaning. The part that can't let silence win. You open positions because stillness feels like suffocation. You chase candles because you can't bear what happens when they stop moving. The mind panics in peace. It would rather be wrong and active than right and unseen. That's the real addiction. Not to profit, but to possibility. The high comes not from the win, but from the moment before. when the outcome is still uncertain enough to fantasize control. That's where ego lives, in the illusion that maybe this one will fix everything. But nothing fixes everything. Not money, not mastery, not success. You don't need fixing, you need forgiveness. Not from the market, but from yourself. Most traders try to evolve by adding layers. More education, more indicators, more information. But evolution in trading is subtraction. You remove illusions until only awareness remains. Revenge is the final illusion to die. It's the hardest because it masquerades as justice. You tell yourself you're defending your dignity, but dignity defended is already lost. There's a moment, subtle, almost silent, when the mind crosses from focus to fixation. You feel it as a tightening in the body, a narrowing in perception. The chart becomes smaller but heavier. You stop seeing structure. You start seeing revenge opportunities. That's the moment you lose the market. That's the moment the market gains you. And once it has you, it will test you. Not your setup, but your attachment. It will tease you with near wins, half recoveries, perfect entries that end in slippage. It's not punishing you. It's purifying you, showing you how easily you betray yourself when your self-worth is on the line. You'll start to see patterns in your behavior that look eerily similar. The same mistakes dressed in different tickers. That's not coincidence, that's curriculum. The market doesn't repeat because it's predictable. It repeats because you are. Every unhealed belief becomes a loop. Every loop trades itself until it's seen. That's trading awareness. Not predicting price, but recognizing pattern in consciousness. The system doesn't make the trader. The trader's awareness makes the system alive. Without it, rules are just walls around panic. You keep asking, when will I finally master this? The answer is cruel and beautiful. When you no longer need to. Because mastery isn't control. It's communion. It's the disappearance of the trader and the chart as separate things. There's just observation, motion, and response. No revenge, no redemption, no resistance. Just seeing. But ego doesn't dissolve easily. It needs drama to survive. So when peace arrives, ego calls it boredom. When clarity appears, ego calls it emptiness. When awareness expands, ego calls it death. The death of revenge is not loud. It's quiet, inconvenient, anticlimactic. No victory music, no cinematic closure. Just an exhale that feels like surrender and sounds like truth. It happens on a random day. You take a loss. The familiar urge rises. The need to fix it, to chase, to rewrite the story. But this time something else speaks first. A voice without words. A silence that says no. You don't obey out of discipline. You obey out of recognition. You see the ghost before it moves your hand. And the spell breaks. That's the first real win you'll ever have. The one that doesn't show on your equity curve but rewires your nervous system. The account stays the same, but the trader changes shape. That's what awareness costs. It doesn't cost capital, it costs identity. To see clearly, you must let the version of you that needs revenge die. Let it sink. Let it rot. Let it stop negotiating with the past. Every click you don't take is a funeral for ego. And the silence that follows? That's freedom disguised as emptiness. You will resist it. 'Cause stillness feels like falling. But falling is only terrifying when you think there's something to hold on to. The market has been trying to teach this since your first trade. Nothing holds. Nothing stays. Nothing owes you. Every tick is a birth and a death in one breath. You can't revenge something that doesn't exist anymore. By the time you react, the moment is already gone. The candle that hurt you is already history. And yet you swing at shadows. You fight ghosts and call it analysis. Trading psychology isn't about erasing emotion. It's about seeing it before it steers the wheel. You don't control emotion. You accompany it until it dissolves. Motion is energy. If you resist it, it becomes rage. If you observe it, it becomes wisdom. Ego hates wisdom because wisdom has no audience. It's quiet. It doesn't post results. It doesn't care who's watching. That's what makes it dangerous. It kills every story ego tells about self-worth. You are not your win rate. You are not your balance. You are the awareness watching them fluctuate. That's your real P&L. perception, and letting go. Revenge trading will try to return. It will disguise itself in logic. This setup aligns with my plan. This entry is valid. This is patience, not pain. But awareness knows tone. You'll feel the vibration beneath the thought, the frequency of desperation. That's the signal. That's where you breathe instead of click. Breathe through the urge, not around it, not against it, through it. Each breath reclaims a piece of your autonomy. Each pause untangles the nervous system from the narrative. This is what discipline was always meant to be. Not restriction, but respect. Respect for reality as it is, not as your wounds demand it to be. When you can watch the market move without trying to edit it, you are finally free. Freedom isn't found in winning. It's found in the absence of compulsion, the paradox. The less you need to win, the more clearly you can see what deserves your risk. And when you see clearly, you don't revenge. You respond. You don't chase. You choose. Awareness turns the market from an enemy into a mirror. Every loss becomes a message. Every win becomes a responsibility. And in that reflection, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? You start whispering, what is this showing me? That's evolution. Not more profit, more perspective. The edge isn't information, it's integration. You're not learning to trade the market. You're learning to trade yourself. The next time you take a loss, notice what happens. The spike in your chest. The story that tries to form. The subtle demand to prove. Let it all appear. Don't interfere. Don't analyze. Just witness. That witnessing is the beginning of healing. Because when the observer appears, the obsession dissolves. Awareness doesn't stop you from losing. It stops you from losing twice. Once in capital and once in consciousness. Every revenge trade doubles the loss. Every act of awareness halves it. The math is simple, the practice is not. Because awareness requires humility, and humility costs image. But image never made you money. It only made you blind. You can't serve two masters, the market and your persona. One demands precision, the other demands performance. Choose precision. Let the persona die. The mind will grieve that death. It will resist stillness. It will call awareness weakness. But weakness is fighting reality. Strength is intimacy with what is. You don't conquer the market. You commune with it. You don't win against chaos. You dance with it until it mirrors your calm. That's the shift. From control to conversation. From reaction to relationship. From revenge to reverence. The market isn't testing you. It's teaching you to see. And when you truly see, you realize there was never a fight, only feedback. So let every candle speak. Let every loss whisper what ego refused to hear. And when the urge to strike back rises again, as it will, smile at it like an old friend you no longer need. It came to teach you. It stayed until you listened. Now you can let it go. You start noticing the small things first. The stillness between ticks. The breath you used to ignore, the quiet seconds when nothing moves, and yet for once you don't rush to fill them. You simply exist there, in the gap between reaction and response. That's where trading actually happens. Not in price movement, not in strategy, not in entries or exits. In that pause, in that sliver of time where awareness decides whether to act or observe. Every winning trader you admire is simply someone who mastered that pause. Not someone who conquered the market. Someone who learned to stay conscious inside the noise. You don't need a better system. You need a cleaner silence. Because silence isn't the absence of activity. It's the presence of awareness. It's the only state where revenge can't breathe. When you're fully aware, there's no story left to fix. No past left to correct. No you left to prove. Just the trade on or no trade. That's the final discipline. Not patience, not control, not routine, but detachment. To move only when movement is clean. To risk only when nothing personal remains. Detachment is misunderstood. People think it means coldness. It doesn't. It means clarity without craving. Most traders live inside their trades. They become the candle, the entry, the P&L. Every tick becomes an extension of their nervous system. Every fluctuation becomes a statement about their worth. That's why losing hurts so deeply. because they don't lose a position. They lose a piece of self-image. But when awareness matures, something shifts. The identity starts to dissolve. You still care, but differently. You no longer chase comfort, you protect clarity. You stop asking, how can I win? You start asking, what version of me is acting right now? That question rewires everything. It turns trading psychology from therapy into transformation. Because the goal is no longer to fix emotion. It's to understand the mind creating it. And once understood, emotion softens. Comes signal, not noise. You begin to see patterns that were always invisible. How excitement precedes loss. How boredom breeds impulse. How control hides fear. You start recognizing the subtle triggers. The flicker of irritation before a setup. The false calm before a chase. And in that recognition, the loop breaks. Awareness doesn't shout, it whispers. You either listen or repeat the lesson. Revenge trading dies in silence. Not because you resist it, but because you outgrow it. The need to get even turns into the ability to remain whole. You stop needing closure because you stopped believing the story was broken. This is the quiet revolution. The trader who no longer needs to prove. He still loses, still wins, still doubts. But none of it defines him. He becomes transparent to the process. That's what mastery actually looks like, invisibility. When you stop trying to be the disciplined trader, you finally become one. You won't notice the exact moment it happens. It's subtle, like fog lifting, like a sound fading away. One day you take a loss and there's no spike of heat, no script of justification. You just adjust, record, move on. It's boring. That's how you know it's pure. And boredom, real unagitated boredom, is the soil of consistency. Because when nothing in you needs excitement, you stop feeding chaos. Chaos only survives where attention leaks. Awareness closes the leaks. The irony is that this stillness doesn't make you passive. It makes you precise. Without revenge clouding perception, you finally see structure as it is. You act less, but every action has weight. You risk less, but every risk is real. You trade smaller, but the account grows larger. Not just in numbers, but in integrity. Integrity is the invisible edge. It's what keeps your hands still when noise tries to seduce you. It's what keeps your voice quiet when ego tries to narrate. And it's what turns trading from survival into meditation. You realize you've been meditating all along. Every chart a mantra, every loss a bell, every session a mirror. The difference is now you're aware of it. The game hasn't changed. You have. There's a strange tenderness in that realization. You stop hating the old versions of yourself. You stop judging the beginner who overtraded, the dreamer who blew accounts, the fighter who couldn't rest. You understand he was necessary. He carried the weight that built the witness. Without him, awareness would have nothing to awaken from. That's why forgiveness matters more than knowledge. Because knowledge without forgiveness becomes arrogant. Forgiveness turns experience into wisdom. And wisdom is the only currency the market respects. You start to see how everything served the lesson. Every impulsive entry, every sleepless night, every "I'll make it back." All of it sculpted awareness out of noise. The market was never punishing you. It was introducing you to yourself. That's the secret of trading awareness. It's not about predicting what's next. It's about remembering who you are while it happens. Awareness turns chaos into context. Context turns fear into information. And information, when seen without emotion, becomes peace. The mind resists peace because peace ends its purpose. It can't survive where there's nothing left to fix. That's why even after enlightenment the ego returns. Smaller, subtler, dressed in reason. It will whisper, "You're calm now, you can size up." It will complement your growth so it can sneak back in. But awareness smiles. It sees the trick, and the trick dissolves. No mastery is permanent. Every day you start again. Every session is a new mirror. Every chart is another chance to forget or remember. That's the discipline. Not perfection, but repetition of awareness. Eventually you trade from a place that feels less like effort and more like observation. You enter not to escape, but to explore. You take losses like exhalations. Natural, rhythmic, necessary. You realize that revenge trading was never about markets. It was about time. You were angry at how fast life moved, how quickly control slipped away. You tried to trap time in trades, but time doesn't belong to you. It moves through you, not around you. The market is just its reflection, a moving mirror reminding you that grasping is the opposite of growth. Now, when you open the platform, it feels different. No hunger, no noise, just quiet readiness. You wait, but you're not waiting. You act, but you're not pushing. You're simply responding to what reality reveals. That's what all the gurus meant by flow. Not mystical, just unresisted presence. The nervous system aligned with uncertainty, breathing through it like a tide. The trader becomes porous, receptive, alive. Revenge can't exist in that frequency, because revenge is contraction, a fist, a glare, a freeze. Flow is expansion, a breath, a pulse, an allowance. The two cannot coexist, so one must die. When revenge dies, you don't lose passion. You lose poison. The fire remains, but it warms instead of burns. It becomes fuel for patience, not proof of pain. That's when you realize something profound. You don't love trading because of profit. You love it because it mirrors consciousness so perfectly. It's the most honest relationship you'll ever have. Immediate feedback, zero mercy, infinite opportunity for awareness. It doesn't care who you are. It only cares how awake you are. The irony is that the more awake you become, the less you care about outcomes. You stop chasing peak performance and start honoring inner peace. And strangely, that peace produces the performance you always chased. Because the market rewards alignment, not aggression. Alignment is when intent and awareness move together. When there's no internal conflict, every decision flows cleanly. No overthinking, no overtrading, no revenge, just presence guiding precision. That's what mastery really is. A nervous system that doesn't flinch in truth. One day you'll watch another trader melt down, the same spiral you once lived. And you'll feel compassion, not judgment, because you'll recognize the look, the haunted focus, the frantic logic, the whisper of "I'll get it back." You'll want to reach out, but you'll know they can't hear yet. Pain is the only teacher they'll believe. And that's okay. The market will teach them as it taught you, not through kindness, but through reflection. Every trader pays tuition. Some pay with money. Others pay with identity. The wise pay with both and thank the lesson. You can't escape this path. You can only wake up on it. There's no shortcut, no hack, no final course. There's only consciousness unfolding candle by candle. When awareness finally anchors, the rhythm of trading changes. You start measuring success differently, not in percentages, but in peace. Not in profit, but in presence. Each session becomes meditation with numbers. Each execution becomes an expression of clarity. That's when the line between trading and living disappears. The same awareness that keeps you calm in volatility keeps you patient in life. The same detachment that lets you accept losses lets you forgive people. The same observation that stops revenge stops self-judgment. You realize you were never learning trading. You were learning consciousness through charts. The market was just the stage. The play was self-realization. So the next time you feel that old pulse and the urge to get even, to prove, to reclaim, remember, that's not a command. It's a ghost. You've met it before. You've outgrown it. Smile at it, breathe, and let it fade. Then place your trade or don't. Either way, you're already winning. Because winning is no longer a number. It's the absence of war within. When the session ends, close the platform gently. Not in frustration, not in pride, in peace. Let the silence after a trade feel holy. That's where truth hides. Not in the next move, but in the stillness that follows. Walk away from the screen the way you leave a conversation with someone you finally understand. No hard feelings, no unfinished business. Just gratitude for what was revealed. The market will open again tomorrow. It always does. And when it does, you'll meet it. Not as an enemy, not as a savior, but as a mirror. It will show you who you are. And you will look without flinching, because that's the real mastery. Not predicting movement, but remaining whole while it moves.